What we believe is true is the most formative thing in your life, not what is true, because that's what guides you. When I was a young man, I was embarrassed one time in a public situation. I'm talking like maybe elementary school. And then I remember me laughing it off and playing off with the joke, and then people stopped laughing. And in fact, I made a few friends from that. And then all of a sudden I learned from that. I had this experience that was hyper negative. I did a reaction and I got a positive response. I encoded that as, oh shit, this works. And then over time, I kept seeing things like if I act this way, people who would bully me eventually got tired of it. And I didn't think of it that intrinsically at the time. I can see it now, but that was what affected my actions. And then my actions reinforcing my behavior because I was getting positive responses. So I experienced positive responses. I was more easy to make friends. I was more easy to resolve conflict. I was more looked at and respected. All of these things reinforced that what I was doing and how I encoded the world was the right way. Now people would say, Steve, you're gregarious. You're a funny guy. You have that talent for talk and humor and all of these things, that this was somehow intrinsic to me and that it was just coming through. These were things that I built as coping mechanisms with my life that I did, and it was reinforced through my actions, and most importantly, the actions of others that reinforced that to me. And when I couldn't do well with that, I would bullshit, and I found success with that. And I rinsed and repeat, and that's how I built my version of self. We all innately do it. We just don't necessarily objectively sit back and notice it. We are enacting a narrative that we're self-writing, and we don't even realize it. And then we do things like in society where people go, Steve, you're innately this. You're talented. You're funny. You have this. Isn't that great? I wish I was that. Those are stories. Those are stories that reinforce our models. Just like when I was a kid and when I did something, and just like you do it now, you do something, you feel positive, you want to do that again. You take a bite of something, and then what do? You verbalize, if it's a good place, you go, hey, whoever I'm with, we should come back here. You're reinforcing your model. When that person goes, yeah, and gives their thumbs up, yeah, we should come back here again. You feel that positive. That's because you're reinforcing your view of the world. That's how you work. That's how you govern yourself. When you say, man, this place is great, and you're with your friend, and they go, I don't know, you feel a negative sensation. That's because your model is being challenged. That's not because your hair or your aerials and your friends tickled the cosmos and now you feel bad. It's because your model, your view of the world has been challenged. And that is the most important aspect of how you work. So your certainty is challenged. You experience a challenge to that certainty, error correction. What you do with that defines you. Do you update your model? Do you let it go? Do you let it pass? Do you think about it later? Do you not call that friend later? Do you not ever invite that friend back to that place? There's a multitude of things, but that's how you handle the complex nature of the models and the signals you receive. They're not being lit up from your memory cards, from your emotional circuits. Humans are not mechanistic in that way. This is a core point. We act like all of these things are mechanistic. What do I mean? That they're mechanical. Literally, that one neuron fires here, this chemical's popped in here, boom, love. You fire these 5 neurons, and you drop a little of this, boom, aggression. That is not how it works. It's more like a computer. It's software. It's code. That's why it's so variable. And the difficulty and the problem is we act like it's mechanical. And the difficulty in changing that is everything we live and do is built on that nature. Try to perform open heart surgery on your own heart, right? I know that's a crazy exaggeration, but think about it. Everything is running. You would have to fundamentally change everything. The human nature is if I challenge and I say something that is counter to what you believe to be true, your innate, proper human reaction is to feel discomfort. That's kind of a hurdle to overcome, in case you missed it. But that's what we're talking about, is that the management of our error signal defines us. I said that earlier. And so one of the things I did was a maladaptive strategy is to shortcut, to not understand, not to sit and allow that negativity or whatever the sensation was that then I attributed negative thoughts to pass. I tried to shortcut. I tried to figure out what was wrong. I tried to identify with certainty what the issue was. So I'd ruminate. I would think. I was reinforcing the negative aspects of the model. I would feel challenged and I'd say somebody's an asshole. Somebody else says, yeah, that guy's an asshole. We would become friends. We weren't destined to be friends. This person samples the world with me. We hanging out reinforce each other's view of the world. That's why we're friends. That's why shitty people can be friends. That's why friendship is something more than what we think. We talk about it in rhetorical ways. We talk about everything with just rhetoric. Just these words that are supposed to have a certain meaning. But if you pause and you look through the lens of active inference and body cognition, the extended mind, you'd see that some of these values don't add up. What you're telling me this should be versus what these models that I'm exploring say don't match up. So if we are in fact creatures of active inference, then that would create error signal. And that's what I'm suggesting, is that no matter what, you as a human being are innately going to see things that are counterintuitive to how you should be. You're going to experience dissatisfaction with that. You're a social animal. Isolation is not that you're weak or that you just need to gut it up. It's because you were fucking built to be social. A dog, a cat, how do they become feral? We domesticated them. Well, cats not so much. But when you hand rear them as a young, they become bonded to people. They become socially modeled to people, socially dependent on people. And when you remove that aspect of it, they change fundamentally at their core because they model their world just like us. That's why a person who had a rough childhood can have, a rough adulthood. If we can list statistics, I'll find a few things that I can throw up, but for the most part, most of the issues when it comes to crime, violent crime, however you want to calculate it, drugs, offenses, what have you, come in no small part from places where they had a rough childhood, bad family life, bad schooling, so forth, so on. You can fundamentally, their developmental cycle, their most prime time of building their models and the hardware that models run on, they were fucked with. So we can continue to spend a ton of money on prisons and punishing people, or if we spend a little bit more money on preventative, allowing these people to not turn into fucked up monsters, we could do something. But one of the reasons we do not do that is because we act like bad people are born and not made, because we live on a story and narrative of what it means to be human. That's why everybody gets up every day and does what they do. That's why society is society. It's the narrative that matches a bunch of thousands of creatures of narrative. It's the overarching narrative for us to run our own episodes. That's how society works. And that understanding that, demystifying it, and changing how you relate your experience to it is freeing. You don't have to substitute your addictions. You can acknowledge your addictions. There are people who are addicted to fitness, who literally work out to their own detriment. We would never say that. You don't say addicted to fitness. You say they're a fitness nut, they're an enthusiast, because you can't have good thing, fitness, with a negative thing, because we think in this myopic, binary way. It's white, black and white. But that's not because that's what we're capable of. That's because that's what society needs in order to work. If you were capable of thinking in a more complex way, this system would break down faster. It's how things work.